live now. We've got some new issues with technology and these darn software packages that keep adding software features, right, to make the experience better, are kind of taking us in reverse. But that's a whole other story because we are here with my co-founder, Phil Vetrano, and I don't know where he is on the screen. And of course, our guest, Lynda Sloan Allen. She's got an M.Ed in CPP. She is the founder of Make Your Mark Learning Center. So she's going to be talking to us about how to support and encourage children who learn differently to still learn. Lynda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay! And we are too. We just don't know where people are on the screen. And so
I think I'm in the middle. Okay. I'm in the middle. You're on top. Phil's on the bottom. Not meaning anything by that.
That's right. I just hope it's all like through, like on the thing there. But anyway, so let's get into this. Let's see if we can make any adjustments here and talk to us about what you see as far as what's going on with respect to children and special needs children. And you've seen a lot through your career and your body of work, helping children find their path and learn differently. Tell us what you're seeing.
Well, so I guess I have to frame it to say that I've been doing this. I'm in my 5th decade of doing this kind of work. When I was about 12, I made this declaration that I am going to be, I think I'm not even on the picture now.
I don't know what's happened. Like, I'm super large. I don't want to be that large. You don't need to see my wrinkles and nose hairs and oh my goodness.
Here I am.
This is just crazy.
There we go.
There we go. I think we'll just have to keep it that way, huh?
We've got gremlins here for sure. So sorry to interrupt your flow. So Lynda, you've seen a few things in your day. Talk to us.
So when I was about 12, I actually declared that my life purpose was to make a difference for the different. I felt so different myself for many reasons, and that was what I decided. So for the next 5 decades, I did everything I needed to do to start working with people who learn differently. And I did everything from starting out as a volunteer and working with families in my community to doing so much volunteer work that I actually got to go to college and get degrees in special education, both an undergraduate and a master's degree in early intervention. I was the first in the nation. And then I just have worked in nonprofits and profits and organizations and government and in every setting that I could to make a difference for families. And over this half a century, I have noticed that the way we perceive, care for, accept, and educate learning different people has changed dramatically. And I think now my message is to parents to help them see that the past does not equal the future. That we have come so far in seeing our children as broken and needy and bad and wrong and not accepted, to finally starting to see that every one of us has a different brain and every one of us learns differently. And I'm here to talk to them about that and to help them see how they can really help their children live the most incredible life, regardless of what appears to be a differently abled ability
So
or a
beautiful.
set of abilities. Isn't that
Outstanding.
That's
true?
just, it is. And do you think over the years you've seen a greater acceptance in the idea that people learn differently and they need to have customized options? Or do you think a lot of people are
Like,
still stuck in, hey, this works, it's always worked, and everybody needs to do it this way?
well, we're just a microcosm of the entire world. So we have levels of acceptance for people in all different corners and all different spaces, right? So it's the same thing here. I mean, there was a time, what really got me started and wanting to make a difference was I watched that horrible documentary secret film that was made in the 1960s about Willowbrook, where that was the belief that the only thing they would meet parents in the delivery room, and the doctors would say the only thing we can do for your child, and it was even more incredible when it was just a kid that maybe had a hearing loss or was obviously blind or was physically disabled. It was automatic. They would tell them, you need to put your child in an institution because you'll never be able to take care of them at home.
It's
That was in the 1960s. I was 12. I was watching this documentary with my parents. At the
right.
end of that documentary, I turned to my parents and said, if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to close down those institutions.
Outstanding.
So
Amazing.
that was what happened then, right? Well, um, so in 1975, to show you how short or long it took, but in 1975, November of 1975, actually, so 50 years ago,
Wow.
President Gerald Ford signed into law the Education for All Handicapped Children Act. And you know who was responsible for making that happen? Parents.
Indeed.
And we have done such a great job. We do this in our world. We've done such a great job to help parents think they have no say. We should on them. You should do this with your children. You should do this. You have to listen to the teachers. You have to listen to the doctors. And that's not what those parents did 50 years ago. So here we are in our present time. And what's really incredible is not only what we think, but this is what the world knows too. We are seeing that 1 in 5 or 20 to 25% of our student body, private and public schools, every single year has children that or students that learn so differently that they need specialized, individualized instruction, because it now includes these these diverse brains, our ADD, ADHD, autistic, which high functioning was called Asperger's, and there's a whole story behind that too, but dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, all of those things, anything that's happening in the brain, even, do you know, as many as 40 to 50% of every person who has epilepsy is neurodiverse
I didn't
and
know
has
that.
brilliance. Yep.
Yeah.
Their IQ is above average, right? At least. Isn't that something? So it's so diverse. So what we're talking about is 15 million students a year, at least in the US, 250 million children around the world.
So they need solutions that enable them to think differently, learn differently, and support them. And so what you've just shared, two key things. One, never stop advocating, right? That's
Right.
a key thing. And two, it's the art of the possible. Right. It's open to our imaginations. Like your center, Make Your Mark Learning Center, you found novel ways to be able to capture the interest of students and to be able to motivate them to learn, feel confident, all of these sorts of things which are essential on the path, rather than beating them down. Hey, you got a C minus on this quiz, therefore you are stupid, and all the rest of this nonsense that has just, oh, I don't know, persisted over my lifetime, Phil's lifetime, your lifetime, and it's got to end. So let's dig in and talk about the different ways that we can, or you can, enable people to learn differently. Because I know you've got some great tips for us, Lynda. What do you have?
I do. I do. Well, and so it was during the pandemic that I was reaching that like Medicare age, and I started to think, what else can I do? I mean, it was great through my Make Your Mark Learning Center. I mean, I tutored thousands of kids and was able to really make a difference. And interestingly enough, sometimes the parents would come to me and I would literally coach the parents and have them sit in with me just to see how I'm just approaching it differently. And but then there were also those parents that were still so believing what everybody else said that I just had to prove it to them. And when they saw that I was just able to show a different way and get amazing results with their kids, that's when they would listen. So I started thinking about how could I do that on a bigger basis? Because one of the things I realized is that I have to like be with the student. It was like sharing my heart with them and them with me. So I knew I wasn't going to make it if I was going to be doing tutoring online. It just wasn't going to work for me. So I was trying to figure out the way that I could communicate with more people and not just in my community, because I had been doing that for so long. So I I worked really hard. This was when everybody was looking at what can we do online, what can we do and share our skills with the world. And I came up with this concept: empowered parents creating the best education experience for their learning different child. And so that was almost 4 years ago when I started it. And as of now, I have an online course that teaches this. I have a book coming out that teaches it even bigger. And I have a TEDx talk that should be out by the end of this year or the beginning of next. So I've been putting all my resources into helping create a way for parents to be given the opportunity to be able to make those decisions for their child and to give them some hints about what it takes to become an empowered parent. And even though I mentioned the education part in there, creating the best education experience, the thing is that we spend 20, 20 or more years, right,
Right?
putting our kids through school. So, and that's for everybody, no matter where you live, right? So at least 20 years. So even though I'm naming it that, it's just to bring in the collective. But these steps that I'm going to tell you are what you can use. I've got 7 steps for raising a child who learns differently. These are steps that you could use regardless. And here's a good example of that. Imagine that your child is, God forbid, born with some medical challenges. One of the things that we don't even consider at that time is going out and becoming a medical doctor or a physician of any kind, right? We go to the experts, right? Well, the same thing happens when we see our children having a problem with education. Parents start to think, I have to become the teacher.
Yes. But we have to.
That's what we start to think. And that's where we go astray with becoming empowered. And let me explain why I say that. Okay, so my first step one is, what does it take to become an empowered parent? And that medical example is a perfect one, because I borrowed this definition from the European Academy of Childhood Onset Disability, which was founded in 1989, and it served everyone involved with kids that were born with disabilities throughout Europe. And we know that sometimes they're ahead of us, sometimes we're ahead of them, right? They said an empowered parent learns what they need to know to become a decision-making partner in the design and delivery of care for your child. That's a completely different definition.
It is, but it also it emphasizes what we said earlier about the need to advocate, right? If you're not there and advocating and being involved as a parent, it doesn't matter what the cognitive abilities or physical abilities are of your child. You can't just sort of chase them out of the house and say, go figure it out. You have to be involved. Did you do your homework? Are you stuck? Are you doing this? Here's the social skills. Here's the life skills. This is how you talk. No, you don't talk to your teacher like that. We need the parent involvement, because we hear so many teachers saying parents have become hands off and said, hey, school board, it's your problem. And then we're seeing the backlash from all of that.
Well, and I would suggest, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Right? Because we are living in a world where everyone else is considered the expert. Look at what we do even for our own personal growth and our own success, right? When, like most of us that became teachers, we went to school and we learned what everybody said. And that's where it started for me. They told me that empowering a parent was teaching them how to do everything I knew how to do in their home. Literally making them the teacher. That's what they told me.
Wow.
Well,
That's what they considered empowerment, right? So what I'm saying is that over time, it's like anything else that we identify with and that we become good at, is we get information. Even if our child has a medical problem, we don't go and become that. We don't decide how to discipline or teach them to read or make them do the, what we do is we get information from people that have that information. And what I'm suggesting is that a parent can fill their mind with the right questions and seek the answers. There's so many people that are sharing that information. And what they're working on is getting an idea of what is true and what is not, right? Quickly, because while on the way of that, they're really figuring out, as I'm learning this, what do I want to be for my child? What does empowerment look like as a parent for me? Do I want to be the taskmaster? Do I want to be the one who's setting up the routines? Or do I want to really understand what it takes to learn and help my child do that? I know you have many questions. I'm seeing this, Laura.
I do, but it's just, again, I think it's almost like parents need a primer right before they send their children to school. That this is how this works. You want to see your child successful? Here's how it works. My role, your role, child's role, school board's role. But they don't have that. And I think that's what's missing.
Exactly. So the way I started is by meeting parents, whether it's in my online course or in my book. I started by meeting the parents where they are. We were all in agreement that through no fault of their child, through no fault of them, through no fault of the teachers, their child is struggling in school or in life some way. And why does that happen? So to be, again, a learning process, like you just said, Laurelyn, a learning process that says, this is what happens when you're learning. This is what it takes. That everybody, and there has to be a belief that everybody's doing the best that they can, including the parent,
See,
including the child, including the teacher.
and that assuming positive intent, but that's not it. We're in this culture of blame where you didn't teach my child enough. And then the teacher is saying, well, you didn't raise your child adequately to be prepared to respect boundaries, listen, whatever, do homework. You don't provide good environment to encourage the child to do homework. Like, it's just, it's this stuff, right? That's the problem.
Yes, yes. So I kind of invite parents to really see that, number one, they're not alone. They're not alone. And that if they could just take a little bit of time and really acknowledge that they are really doing the best that they can. And there's reasons why there are these problems. And that if we can get an understanding of why that documentary was made, why people thought that way, why people think the way they do now, and also show them that it's going to change, it has changed all along. And I make them part of the solution right there. So I help them understand what happened in education before, what's happening in education now, and exactly what's happening for them now. So a lot of that is really, and it's not pointing a finger at them, it's pointing a finger at the situation. And then I start to bring in, so how do we learn, and why do we act the way we do? Your children as well as you. And I start to talk to them about parenting and how parenting is a result of our thoughts, beliefs, ideas, and feelings. And that's where I bring in, what do they wish for themselves as a parent, for their child? How do they want their world to look? What would really make them feel like they were creating the solution and these solutions for their child to have the most blessed life? And so there's no blame, and it just is what it is. So that's moved them into the space of no blame. It is what it is. This is the circumstances, and look at how strong and how capable you are. And now it's time to really take a look at how capable your child is. So all along the way, and this is the beginning of my 4-step process. So my fourth step, or my step 4, is identifying your dream role for your child based on everything that you've learned, based on everything you know you deserve and everything you know they deserve. So it's going to be different for everybody. Every brain learns differently. Every person has different learning needs. So here is the parent now empowered, ready to go. Okay, give me information. Right? So then my next step 5, is get crystal clear clarity about what it takes to learn to succeed in school and in life. And how does that look for your child? And I literally give them, it's like the Reader's Digest version of everything a person needs to be able to be educated and successful. And it's amazing.
Can it be distilled down this simply? And I'm not trying to do an injustice to all that you do or all that anybody in this space does, but that people want to be seen and heard, whether you're the parent of the child with the special need or the child with the special need, that like, hey, I'm here. I'm not a they and the masses and the crowd. I'm a me, right? I'm a one. And
And that's what leads to my next step. The next step is realizing, because this is what we feel like we're fighting the world, right? Nobody understands our kid. Nobody understands me, right? That's when, and the whole time I'm suggesting to them, do you see you're not alone? So my next step, step 6, is become aware of all the many available resources that are out there. Many. There are more than even you've thought, because I have really looked at this very deeply. And there really is. You know, when I started this, as a tutor, I just looked around the world for what other people were doing. And I had maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 people that I followed from different countries and around the United States. I would borrow some of their stuff, because I didn't focus on maybe social and emotional development so much, or as an example, or maybe I didn't work with as many gifted kids as I did with kids that were not showing up as the gifted they were. So I got things from them. Well, when I started doing this idea of empowering parents, I knew I needed to collaborate with other people. And I started to put together lists of providers, educators, therapists, really professionals that were able to help our children, that were constantly presenting to parents what they could do to help.
Mhm.
And I figured if I brought them together, that we could elevate everybody at the same time. Well, I started out with a small list. I have about 400 individual names now
That's a lot.
of
Yeah.
people that are out there on the internet writing books, doing videos and podcasts, we have a lot of people, many of which are parents. These are people that are sharing so deeply about what they've experienced themselves and what they've learned. And still in all, parents don't know how to go to. In fact, now they're even more confused because everybody's thinking that their program, they're right. So
A lot
now
of
parents have a different problem, right? But with my 4 steps, when they're really clear about what their dream role is for their child, and they're crystal clear about what learning looks like for their child. And then they realize, oh my goodness, there are resources out there that I need because of those 2 things. And then the final thing is how to turn that into the business that you've been doing all along. The success for your child's best education experience, right? Because now they have all these tools. And what I show them is that the same way that that they were not alone, they also cannot do this alone. They must create their own team, or like you said, village, because it takes a village
it does.
to raise a really great child.
So, with all that said, and all this wealth of knowledge and experience, separate from all of these different steps, what should a parent really do? Is it the matter of encourage the parent to go to the school or to reach out to resources, find people like yourself to say, I'm overwhelmed, I've got the conundrum of choice, what do I do? Like, where do they even get started?
I really believe that with somebody like me, it's almost like what I'm being is a coach for them by helping them see what it takes to become empowered. They have to become empowered first. And on the way to them becoming empowered, that's exactly why my book and my course are the way that they are, because I just help them be in the problem. And I help them see that they're not the only one going through that. and that they can't do something different until they think differently.
Right.
So what I'm really inviting them to do in order to identify that dream role is I'm helping them see that the mindset that they have, this parental mindset, they're getting to look at that and see if that's really going to bring them to where they need to go. Right? So I'm helping them create a new mindset, a growth mindset. And so in that, once they're really clear about that, then they know, do they need to work with their teacher? Do they need to actually create a completely different educational environment for their child? How do they do that? With all these available resources, they start to see that there are the numbers of parents, especially since I'm sure you've read about this, since the pandemic,
Sure.
the amount of homeschooling, the amount of private schools that have opened up, the amount of alternative processes. Every single day, parents are recognizing that there is so much more available, but they can't do it when they're in the problem. It's like anything else, right? They
Yes.
have to be more focused on the solution.
That's right. So, Lynda, with that, that's a lot, I think, for our folks to process, but I want people to be able to find out how and where they can contact you. What's their
Mhm.
best bet? Should they go to Make Your Mark? Which they do? How should they approach this if they're
They
overwhelmed?
can go right onto my website and it describes everything that I'm doing. Make Your Mark learningcenter.com. So that's nice and easy.
Yes.
And that'll take you everywhere. It'll tell you about my book. It'll tell you about everything. But and I'm very available. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm getting myself out there. Like I said, I've been doing this for so long and I was always and I'm sure some other people have been experiencing this. I've never had a problem uh, sharing my work or being able to help lots of families in whatever community I've lived in, because that's kind of easy. The word spreads quickly. But now in this day and age, there's so much. There's so much online. There's so many books. I went on Amazon and just put in the word autism, and there were over 400 pages of autism books. 400 pages on Amazon. That's
Yes.
amazing, right? So I think that the big message here is that you have to find somebody who's talking to you as a parent, not selling you what your child needs, because you don't know yet. Everybody means well. Everybody's really got great information. But until you as the parent, those same parents that had the mindset that they have to look past what it is in front of them to what could be, until they can do that, it's going to be really difficult. And so it might seem like a lot at the beginning, but I think literally both my book and my course, which walks them through it, it can take you as little as 5 hours, literally 5 hours.
Okay. And that's what
That's
parents
it.
need to do, right? Get involved, get behind them. They've already done so much for their child. Just go to that next level. And we've got wonderful resources like you, Lynda Sloan Allen, with your upcoming TED Talk. Congratulations. That's absolutely huge. Your book, your course, your program. Folks can get all kinds of information. Make Your Mark Learning Center. Thank you.
And become an empowered parent